Hi, this video is for EDU 583, Linguistic Theory and Analysis at Georgetown College. I'm talking with a general education teacher about how to support her EL students with speaking and writing and literacy. What linguistic assets do you think that your students have?
Just trying to help. Connecting schema in their first language to what we're working on in English. Communicating during discussion using common language, talking about the text that we're reading in class, and relating their personal experiences to what we're reading in class as well.
Wow, it sounds like your EL students have a lot of skills and a lot of assets in literacy.
They sure do.
Access scores is something that I'm sure you've seen a lot, but do you understand or what do you know about access testing? I guess is my question.
I know that it's a test that EL students take early or yearly to gauge their English proficiency.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's assessing their comprehension and communication in English using their academic vocabulary. The access test is taken each year by EL students to determine their academic English proficiency in the areas of speaking, listening, reading, and writing. These scores are provided as can-do descriptors. This means that at their current level of proficiency, these are the things that they are able to do, that they are excelling at and they are able to do well. As EL teachers, we want to focus on what our students are doing well and what they can do instead of focusing on their deficits. So those can-do descriptors are a great way to show that your students can do these set list of things. Specifically, let's look at a student's scores here. I have her access scores, and for the purpose of this video, let's call her Luna. So as you can see, here's her listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Her listening score, as you can see, is significantly higher than all of her other scores, which is pretty common for EL students because they're taking everything in. They're like sponges, soaking it all in, instead of having to put out a lot. And especially at first and as they get more comfortable with English, they'll start increasing in those areas as well. So her listening score, she was a 6.0, which is excellent. And that means that she can synthesize information really well for multiple speakers. She can create models or visuals to represent what's going on and what she hears around her. She understands information that's presented orally, and she can hear things from different points of view and understand that. The next one is speaking, and she scored a 3.7. She can communicate in detail orally. She's good at discussions, and she can describe the process that something goes through. Her next score was reading, and she scored a 3.1, which is her lowest score, so that's really where we're focusing with Luna. She can understand written language in a variety of topics. She can classify main ideas into different categories, and she can write steps in a written process of a procedure. And finally, her writing score was a 4.5, and she is able to describe specific ideas or concepts and narrate stories with details of people, settings, events, and situations. And then her overall score was a 4.4. Do you think this is accurate of Luna's capabilities in the classroom?
I do.
Good. Okay. Excellent. So we talked about in here that you have your 4 domains. You have listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Students will have different levels of proficiency in each one. Some may be stronger in speaking and listening like Luna, while others are stronger in reading and writing. It just depends on their cultural background and where they've come from. Some listening strategies that you can use in the classroom include listening to a text on their specific topic, using videos so students can watch and listen and associate nonverbal cues, hand motions. I know you're a very talk with your hands teacher, so I think Luna really appreciates that. And you can teach vocabulary before listening to a text so that she has that pre-teaching and that academic vocabulary already ready to go. Speaking, some strategies you can use are when focusing on content, don't stop students for pronunciation errors. If they're doing a really good job presenting something, or if they're on point with what they're saying, but they've missed a couple pronunciations, that's not really the focus of the content area. Peer modeling is really good for them, using sentence frames, peer interviews, and any kind of authentic practice where they're not just just speaking for no purpose. Some reading strategies, assessing prior knowledge, explicitly teaching vocabulary, which you're really good at, teaching cognates from the student's first language, especially because you have so many Spanish speakers. There's a lot of cognates that go from both English and Spanish. And to give students the opportunity to read text multiple times to practice their fluency. And finally, writing. We can teach writing mechanics in an acquisition manner, meaning that they're doing it authentically. It's not like you and I probably learned Spanish, which was just copy these sentences to learn the grammar of it. But we're getting away from that and trying to use that acquisition view to get students practicing in authentic ways. Do you have any questions about those 4 domains?
No. You went over them really, really well.
All right. Well, moving on. Assessment types. I think student choice in any type of assessment is really important. And also using a variety of strategies to get the whole picture about students. In what areas do you think your students need the most practice?
I do think that my students definitely need more practice with speaking.
Okay.
And being comfortable with speaking in front of their peers.
Excellent. What are some ways that you think that you have that you assess your students currently?
We use state testing, district benchmarks, and within the classroom, daily formative assessments, and then summative assessments when we get to the end of specific standards.
Okay, excellent. Well, I have a couple of other ways you can assess your EL students specifically, but these strategies also work for your mainstream students as well. Looking at anecdotal notes, I think is really important for me because we're always on the move as teachers. You know, we're always moving and going, and just jotting something down real quick really tells me a lot about a student, especially when I compile all of those notes. And observations, oral assessments for those students that are better at speaking and listening. If you ask them something, they might be able to tell you a lot more than if you ask them to write it down. So tools like Flipgrid are really good for EL students, or a task that the student's completing, and just like have them to solve a project or even do a project-based learning type of thing. Do you think you would try any of those?
Definitely. Love Flipgrid, and all students really love Flipgrid. So
yeah, they do. It's really good for engagement
everybody.
as well. Yeah. You said your students needed more practice with speaking, and after talking to you, I think a way to do that would be to really combine those cognates that we talked about, and especially at this grade level, like in elementary we use word walls, but I think a cognate wall would be really good for your group of students, and especially your EL students, because it's going to give your EL students some confidence as well, and to teach their English speaking students about their first language. So really connecting those. And we also have a Spanish teacher, so they're getting some of that in Spanish class and connecting that so that they can not only be more confident in speaking, but have the academic vocabulary to do so. Is that something you think you would try?
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for talking with me. And I really enjoyed it. I hope you use some of these strategies with Luna and your other students.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.